Have you ever wondered what would happen if a Neanderthal man from 100,000 years ago was transported to our modern world? Or perhaps you've thought about it in reverse, wondering how we would fare if we were sent back to their time. These are fun hypotheticals, but they also have some serious science behind them. In fact, scientists believe that our ancestors, Homo sapiens, actually lived alongside the Neanderthals for thousands of years. So there's real-world evidence to draw upon for this sort of speculation. One thing is clear though, even without the scientific data, it's not even a contest. We would absolutely get wrecked by a Neanderthal in a fight. Even though we share a significant portion of our DNA with Neanderthals, they were still a separate species with their own unique traits and characteristics. A key difference between Neanderthals and us was their physical prowess. They were stockier and stronger than we are, making them better suited to colder climates. On average, they were shorter than modern humans, but significantly broader and heavier. To make matters worse, they had bigger brains than we do, albeit differently shaped ones. But that might not be the advantage you think. To illustrate just how much stronger Neanderthals were than us, consider the bones they left behind at various archaeological sites. Scientists can determine the age, sex, and even lifestyle of an individual based on these remains. By studying the bones, one scientist in particular, Professor Brooks, came to the conclusion that Neanderthals were likely around 20% stronger than we are today. And that's not a small margin. It's easy to get wrapped up in the whole notion of caveman strength, but it's worth remembering that we're talking about real people here. The Neanderthals were real people. You could even say they were super. If you're still skeptical, maybe you should take a look at some of their tools. In order to construct the weapons they used, Neanderthals would have needed to use rocks weighing up to 33 pounds. That's over twice the weight of the heaviest rock used by modern humans during the same period. And they didn't just use these heavy rocks as tools, they used them as They were able to throw rocks weighing more than 11 pounds over 82 feet, which is really quite remarkable. That's because Neanderthal bones showed signs of having powerful muscles, especially in the shoulders, back and hips. These adaptations enabled them to throw objects with more force than any human could muster today. But don't worry too much about the arm workout Neanderthals got while wielding those heavy rocks. It wasn't all hard work and no play. As it turns out, they also enjoyed engaging in recreational activities such as throwing spears at least 60 feet. Again, this kind of physical prowess should not be underestimated. Neanderthals could run up to 28 miles per hour and jump over 6 feet in the air. By comparison, the fastest Olympic sprinter can only manage around 27.8 miles per hour, only half a mile per hour slower than Neanderthal running for their life. But when it comes to jumping, well, let's just say there's no contest there. And it's not like Neanderthals were slow-witted either. In fact, they had larger brains than ours. Although it's important to point out that brain size doesn't necessarily correlate with intelligence, what scientists really want to know is how the Neanderthal brain worked, what it was capable of, and how it compared to our own. Unfortunately, there are limits to what we can learn from a fossil record. Even so, scientists have made some interesting discoveries about the structure of the Neanderthal brain. For example, the region of the brain responsible for language was roughly the same size as ours, suggesting they had similar language capabilities. However, other parts of their brain were larger than ours, particularly the region associated with visual processing. This suggests that they may have had better eyesight than we do. We also have evidence that Neanderthals were capable of abstract thought and planning for the future, which implies a certain level of intelligence. Their brain structure suggests that they had a heightened sense of smell compared to us, which might seem like a disadvantage. However, they also had a reduced sense of taste, meaning they didn't experience the same level of flavor in their food. Perhaps that's why Neanderthals preferred to eat meat over plants. Now, before we wrap things up, let's address another common question. Did Neanderthals really have big, bushy eyebrows? Well, there's some evidence to suggest they did. The fossil record shows that Neanderthals had large supraorbital ridges, which are the bony areas above the eyes. These ridges were much more pronounced in Neanderthals than in modern humans, leading to the popular image of them having big, bushy eyebrows. You probably never thought about how useful eyebrows are until you had a chance to talk to someone who is missing them. Eyebrows serve a variety of functions, including protecting us from direct sunlight and preventing sweat from dripping into our eyes. They also help us communicate with others by conveying our emotions. But whether or not Neanderthals had these same eyebrow benefits is a topic of ongoing research. Some scientists suggest that the large brow ridges found in Neanderthal fossils may have served a different purpose, such as providing attachment points for strong facial muscles or helping to regulate their body temperature. Ultimately, more research is needed to fully understand the role of Neanderthal eyebrows. Although Neanderthals were physically stronger and arguably smarter than us, they eventually went extinct. There are a few theories as to why this happened. One idea is that they were outcompeted for resources by Homo sapiens, who were more adaptable and had more sophisticated tools and weapons. Another theory is that climate change played a role, as the weather started to become warmer and drier, which may have made it harder for them to find food and shelter. A third theory is that interbreeding with Homo sapiens led to the dilution of Neanderthal genes and ultimately their extinction. Whatever the reason, we're left wondering what would have happened if they had stuck around. Let's imagine a world where Homo sapiens and Neanderthals coexist. How would our lives be different if these two species had somehow managed to thrive together? First off, let's start with the obvious. Our history books would look very different. No more theories about where we came from or how we evolved. Instead, we would have our own personal Rosetta Stone that detailed the differences and similarities between our two species. Language would be fascinating, with its own unique set of challenges and rewards. Imagine learning a new language just to communicate with your neighbor. And that's just one of the ways that having two dominant species would change our world. But what about the rest? Would we have developed nuclear weapons earlier? Would we have figured out how to fly? Would we even be watching this video right now? The truth is that we can't really say for sure. The evolution of both species would depend on so many factors, from the environment to the choices that each group of people made. But one thing is for sure, the world would be a lot more interesting. We'd love to hear your thoughts on the matter. What do you think? How would our world be different if Neanderthals were still around today? Let us know in the comments below. And while you're there, don't forget to hit the like button for more videos like this one. Thanks for watching.